So for Social's sake, we had to read Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. And it's about two main characters, Morrie and Mitch. Morrie is a college professor who, in his late 60s, finds out that he's dying because his ALS is progressing. And the story of his last few weeks is told by Mitch, who is one of Morrie's former students, who happens to bump into him during his final days. In the beginning, we get a brief introduction to both the characters in Mitch's graduation ceremony. And fast forward a couple years, and Morrie has contracted ALS, and it starts making his body weaker, and Mitch kind of helps him go through things, and they meet on Tuesdays, and each Tuesday they discuss a bunch of important things. And the final class, which is also the most important, consists of discussions about important things like friendship, love, loss, death, and other concepts like that. And then as the weeks pass, Morrie's body grows weaker, and though he fights day to day to stay positive for the people that he loves, he can't all the time. And Mitch watches his friends suffer, and his own heart gets stronger through Morrie's suffering. And when Morrie passes away, Mitch gives us a conclusion, and it's kind of a look back on his last class with Morrie, and it shows like what Morrie did for him, and the gratitude for what Mitch learned, and he just regrets that he didn't meet Morrie earlier. So first we have question number 1, which talks about who got more out of their Tuesday meetings, Mitch or Morrie, and in what ways, and how do you think each of them would answer this question. So I'm going to hand it over to Mindy, who's going to give her answer first.
Hello. So I believe that both the men gained and benefited from these meetings, but I believe that Mitch benefited more because he gained a mentor, and he also learned some lessons from Morrie. And Morrie also gained because he enjoyed the company and he enjoyed sharing his wisdom to someone else.
I believe that both men are benefiting from the Tuesday meetings, but Mitch is benefiting in a more financial aspect because he's making money off the book he's writing from what Morrie is telling him. But Morrie also gives Mitch purpose and perspective into life, which are two elements that most people spend their life seeking for. Mitch also gives Morrie companionship and ensured his legacy. So the second question asks, discuss Morrie's criticisms of Mitch throughout the book, and do you think Morrie should have been tougher on him or easier? I said that I'm not sure if Morrie should have been tougher with Mitch, but I know that Morrie's criticisms were part of the reason Mitch experienced such positive changes and growth as an individual, and this is also why Mitch found Morrie so influential. And I'm saying this because, as I said in the first question, Morrie's giving Mitch purpose and perspective, and you could see this through like the list that Mitch makes for Morrie to answer him, and you could see how important Morrie's input is to Mitch and how it makes him a better person throughout the book.
I believe that Morrie should not have been harder on Mitch because Mitch learned a lot from Morrie's examples and life lessons that he's been talking about because Morrie puts his feelings into them. For example, throughout the book, Morrie starts focusing more on important things in life such as love, his family, community, and consideration. Our third question is, do you think Mitch would have listened if Morrie hadn't been dying? And does impending death automatically make one's voice able to penetrate where it couldn't before? I said yes. Mitch would have listened to Morrie because he had great respect for Morrie and chose to contact him, and that was his decision. He didn't have to do it. But impending death does not penetrate where it couldn't before, but it does make people stop and listen to what they're saying.
I said that Mitch would have listened to Morrie regardless of if he was dying or not, because, as Mindy said, Mitch was the one that reached out to Morrie, and also Mitch had the utmost respect for Morrie, and throughout the book, Morrie was able to teach Mitch very valuable lessons that made Mitch experience positive changes in individual growth. But I don't think that Mitch may have realized the little things like love, community, consideration, and stuff like that without Morrie, because he never really had that mindset before. And unlike Mindy, I believe that impending death kind of does penetrate where it couldn't before, because you have more of a reason to listen to somebody when they're dying, because their life kind of means more to you. So question 4 asks, does this book make Morrie's death a public event? And if so, how is it similar to other public deaths we've experienced as a society, and how is it different? I said that Morrie's death is publicized because it was displayed in a TV series, and Mitch also wrote a book about the lessons that Morrie taught him. And you can literally see this in society like all the time today, because you see it in the news and articles, TV series. You could see it in like special episodes of things, especially in like celebrities and famous people, just because like people know them and know their name, and when someone that like everyone knows dies, everyone wants to hear about it. But Morrie wasn't really as known to like everyone in the society that he was in, so I think that plays a different role because it was more publicized than like a celebrity would have been.
So, I believe, it does make Morrie's death a public event because of the TV series they put on. And as Sam said, Mitch published a book about him. And it happens in today's society with celebrities. For example, like Kate Spade just passed away today. And it was all over social media, everywhere you can see.
So Morrie refers to himself as a bridge, a person who is in between life and death, which makes him useful to others as a tool to understand both. The question asks us to talk about other literary, historical, political, or religious figures who have also served as this purpose. I think Morrie personally relates himself to this because when you're in between life and death, like you can give perspective to people that aren't dying, what death actually feels like and what it feels like when you actually start to experience death. And then in today's society, like people like popes and priests help prepare people to enter the afterlife, and like if you believe in God, they help you and prepare you to meet God, and they give you the chance to reconcile your sins, which will help you go into heaven instead of being stuck in purgatory or going to hell. And you also listen to your dying family and friends when they're dying, because they also, like Morrie, give you insight to what it feels like to actually be that close to death, and you listen to them more when they're dying because you want to know what it would feel like, because you never want to be put in that situation.
I also said that this relates to like the Pope and any religious leaders in the world, because they prepare us for our life in heaven or hell, or our life in heaven with God by guiding us on earth. Oh my God. And also our family members that are dying, because you will sit there and listen to them more than when they're alive, because they have lived more and learned more while being alive. So, question 6 asked, Morrie told Mitch about the tensions of opposites, and it's asking us to talk about it for the book and for society. So, the meaning of tension of opposites is a rubber band is pretty much just pulling us in two different directions. And this is just meaning that in society, you can do it one way, but you will go with society in another and do it like them.
I also found that he can also mean that it could be like the arguments between people, and like if you're fighting with somebody, like you have two different outlooks on it because both of you have different opinions. That's why you're arguing. And then, as Mindy said, it could be a rubber band pulling you in two different directions, and you'll tend to go with society even though you might have a different outlook. And like for an example, like if you want to do something, but like say somebody, one of your friends or somebody in your family wants to do another, you tend to want to please them. And it is a metaphor for the book because it could be a metaphor for life and death. So in question 7, it talks about how Mitch made a list of topics that he wanted Morrie to explain and give him insight and clarity to. And you ask what ways would our lists be the same or different, and I said that if I were able to make a list for Morrie, a lot of the topics I would personally ask would follow what Mitch asked him to, but I would also probably add things like love, happiness, and religion, because everyone has to face these subjects at some point in their lives, and I would like to hear what Morrie has to say about them, because Morrie obviously had a lot more life experience than I have because he was in his late 60s and I'm only 18. And if I can ask him, like obviously he would have had experienced these subjects more than I would have.
Wait, what's the question? My list would be the same as Morrie's, with all the same topics, but I would also add happiness and love because, or as Mitch, not Morrie, because Morrie has gone through so much in life since he is at old age and he is dying. He probably knows more than me at this point in life. I'd also just ask him for his input on everything and how he feels and his feelings towards everything.
So Morrie said if you found meaning in your life, then you don't want to go back, you want to go forward. And the question asked, is this true in your experience? All anyone can hope for in life is meaning, and if you've found that meaning, then you want to pursue it and you want to fulfill your meaning in life. Everyone looks for that purpose they have in life, and once you find it, you want to move forward and like into the actual purpose that you have in life. And I think Morrie's spot on with this, because once you found this meaning, like you don't want to go back, like you want to keep pushing towards your goals. And like I think he's more talking about goals than anything else when he says this.
I also agree with this quote because it is true. Like in my experience, the future is what holds everything about us. Everything you do today or right now, every decision you make is going to lead to your future. So staying back and not moving forward isn't going to help you at all, because you're not going to be able to fulfill anything in life. And if you keep moving forward, then you can succeed.
Question 9 asks, was Morrie judging people who chose not to have kids with the statement, if you want the experience of having complete responsibility for another human being and learning how to love and bond in the deepest way, then you should have children? Whether or not he was, do you agree with the statement? I personally do not believe with the statement, because in order to care for someone in the deepest way, you don't need to have kids. You can have significant others who don't necessarily need to be spouses or like people you're dating or something like that. Like it could be your family, it could be your friends, it could be anybody that you deeply cherish. And I get what he says when he says like caring for somebody and like finding the deepest connection that you can get, but also like you can find the deepest connection you can get and you can take care of somebody if you're in a relationship with somebody, or like you can have the deepest connection with your parents. Like you don't necessarily need to have kids in order to have deep connections with people. And I think that he was wrong in saying this, because I think that in a way he is judging people that don't have kids, because some people can't have kids and some people don't want kids, and they find their deep connections and the need to take care of someone else through their marriage or through their like dating life or through their parents.
I believe that Morrie was not judging, but just stating his statement and his opinion. But instead of Sam, I do agree, because usually kids have the greatest bonds with their parents, and because parents are the first people in your life that you can trust and you can tell everything to. But also, as Sam was saying, like you can love someone without having kids. Like if you just trust them and put all your trust into them, like then you can find a deep connection. But also having kids, like that's your first child. That's the first like thing that you love in life. That's the first, like that's your own human being. Like you made that.
So now me and Mindy are just gonna give our own like kind of review of the book and how we felt about it after reading it. I liked it a lot. I thought it was a wonderful book about the meaning of life and life's most important lessons, and it shows a lot about connections you make in college, and especially like going to college next year. Like you may make connections like Mitch did with Morrie for like a lifetime. Like when Mitch goes back to see his old professor, even though he's dying, like he just recalls like everything that Morrie ever did to him, and he recalls every like lesson that Morrie taught him, and like the whole book is just filled with great advice, and like you can use it at any age and like any point in your life. It's a relatively short book, and like it's not a hard read at all. And like whether you're looking for just like a quick read or like a meaningful book, like both, like whatever one you're looking for, like Tuesdays with Morrie is guaranteed to leave you satisfied with like a new outlook on life and like how you can fulfill different aspects of your life. And then like with this book, like yeah, it could be a bit sad because it discusses death and like that, but I would still recommend it to everyone, because like you could be so surprised with how like you're affected by this book and what it can teach you.
So in my opinion, I thought the book was good with all the life lessons that Mitch learned, and it was good with just talking about the aspect that people can give. But also, I didn't really like reading the book. It wasn't like I didn't mind reading the other books that we read, but it was whatever. I had to do it for a grade. But I want to relate to this a lot, because my school that I'm going to is really small, and each class is filled with like 15, 20 people. So I want to get close with professors and all, and hopefully learn lessons from them. And I kind of want to be like this book, because that'd be pretty sick. And yeah.